Something happened overnight that the mainstream media is not fully connecting for you. While most of the world was asleep, a conflict that began less than 3 weeks ago quietly crossed a threshold that military analysts have been watching with growing alarm. This is no longer just a regional skirmish between old adversaries. What is unfolding in the Middle East right now carries the potential to reshape global energy markets, rupture decades-old alliances, open multiple new war fronts simultaneously, and send economic shockwaves into every household in America and beyond. If you have been following this conflict casually, today is the day you need to sit down, pay close attention, and understand exactly what happened overnight, why it matters, and where this is all heading. Stay with me until the very end of this video because the full picture only becomes clear when you see all the pieces together. I promise you, by the time we finish, you will understand the situation in a way that most people simply do not. To understand what happened overnight, we need to briefly rewind to where this all began. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a joint military operation against Iran in what the White House has since called Operation Epic Fury. The opening strike targeted the compound known as the Leadership House, and within hours, Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was dead. That single event, the assassination of the man who had led Iran's theocratic government for over 3 decades, sent immediate shockwaves through the entire region. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, was appointed as the new supreme leader. He reportedly survived the strike by seconds, according to leaked audio that emerged in the days following. Within 24 hours of the war beginning, Iran had already fired 167 ballistic and cruise missiles and over 500 drones at the United Arab Emirates alone. This was not a country in retreat. This was a country retaliating with everything it had. And from that moment forward, the conflict has expanded in ways that are genuinely unprecedented in modern Middle Eastern history. Now, if you are watching this channel and finding real value in this analysis, please take just 2 seconds right now to hit that like button and subscribe to War Alert 24. Your support allows us to continue delivering this level of in-depth ground-level reporting directly to you without any filters. Thank you, and let's continue. As we enter what is now the 18th day of the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, the overnight developments have brought several critical shifts that demand serious attention. Israel announced a new and intensive wave of strikes against Western Iran during the overnight hours, continuing a pattern of targeting infrastructure that the Israeli Defense Forces describe as systematically dismantling the Iranian regime's operational capacity. Meanwhile, a second major front has now officially opened. The Israeli military confirmed that its troops have begun what it is calling limited and targeted ground operations in southern Lebanon. This is significant. Hezbollah began firing rockets at northern Israel on March 2nd, and since then, the Israeli military has been methodically striking targets in and around Beirut and issuing mass evacuation orders across southern Lebanon. According to Lebanon's government disaster office, the assault has now killed at least 886 people and displaced more than 1 million Lebanese civilians. That second front is not a distraction. It is a deliberate strategic move designed to prevent Hezbollah from opening a sustained and organized missile campaign against northern Israel while the primary confrontation with Iran continues. But here is where the overnight picture becomes truly alarming. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's entire oil supply passes, remains functionally closed to normal shipping. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, declared that the strait would stay closed until U.S. military bases across the region are shut down. That is an extraordinary demand that Washington has shown no interest in meeting. And the consequences of that closed strait are already cascading through the global economy in ways that are accelerating by the day. As of this morning, Brent crude oil, the global benchmark, is trading at over $106 per barrel. That is a jump of more than 40% compared to prices on February 27th, the day before this war began. Liquefied natural gas prices have surged even more sharply, rising by nearly 60%. Qatar, which supplies about 20% of the world's LNG, was forced to suspend production after an Iranian drone attack struck its facilities on March 2nd. The ripple effects are being felt from Asia to Europe to your local gas station, and analysts at Capital Economics are warning that if this war drags on for another 3 months, Brent crude could average as high as $150 per barrel over that period. That is not just an energy story. That is an inflation story, a recession story, a story about what you pay for groceries, for heating, for every single product that moves on a truck or plane. On the military dimension, the White House made a striking claim this weekend announcing that Iran's ballistic missile capacity has been, in their words, functionally destroyed, and that its navy has been assessed as combat ineffective. President Trump said the United States has achieved complete and total aerial dominance over Iran. And the data does support a significant degradation of Iranian capabilities. At the start of the war, Iran was launching over 160 missiles in a single day. By day 15, that number had fallen to just 4. According to a senior Israeli military official cited by the Institute for the Study of War, Israel has put as many as 290 of Iran's estimated 410 to 440 missile launchers out of service. That is a remarkable achievement in terms of precision targeting. But here is the part that should give everyone pause. Iran has not stopped firing. It is still launching missiles toward Gulf states, toward Israel, toward shipping lanes. A missile landed on a car in Abu Dhabi overnight, killing a person. Qatar intercepted another inbound missile. Saudi Arabia reported destroying 37 drones in its eastern region. Bahrain has now intercepted over 114 missiles and 190 drones since the war began. The IRGC spokesperson, Brigadier General Ali Mohammed Naini, made a statement that analysts found particularly notable. He claimed that most of Iran's weapons cache remains intact, and that the missiles being used in this war are from a decade ago, not from Iran's more modern stockpile. Whether that is true, or whether it is deliberate psychological messaging designed to deter further escalation, we cannot say with certainty. But the implication is unmistakable. Even a damaged and degraded Iran can still reach out and hurt you. The human toll of this conflict is also something that cannot be reduced to geopolitical abstraction. Iran's health ministry reports that at least 1,144 civilians have been killed and more than 18,500 injured since February 28th. The International Red Crescent has stated that over 6,600 civilian units have been struck. 3.2 million Iranians have been internally displaced, forced from their homes as strikes continue across the country. The UN Human Rights Office has already characterized certain strikes as potential war crimes under the Rome Statute. Pope Leo XIV appealed directly to the warring parties over the weekend, calling on them to cease fire in the name of Christians across the Middle East and all people of goodwill. That appeal, coming from the most prominent moral voice in the Western world, has so far produced no response from Washington or Jerusalem. Perhaps the most consequential development to watch is the one that is unfolding not in a battlefield, but in the diplomatic arena, and it carries enormous implications for the next phase of this war. President Trump demanded this past weekend that NATO allies, along with China, France, Japan, South Korea, and the United Kingdom, send warships to patrol and secure the Strait of Hormuz. His language was unusually direct, warning that it would be very bad for the future of NATO if allies failed to step up. He also stated that the United States would remember which countries chose not to help. But as of overnight, foreign nations have reacted with either silence or outright rejection of that demand. NATO allies are not rushing to join a war that many European capitals openly oppose. China, which relies heavily on Gulf oil, is navigating its own delicate calculations. And Trump has now indicated that his planned trip to China at the end of March may be delayed because, as he put it, he cannot afford to be out of the country while a war is ongoing. That diplomatic standoff over Hormuz is not a side story. It is the central question that will determine whether this war can be contained or whether it expands into something far larger. If the strait remains effectively closed, the pressure on every major economy in the world to do something will only intensify. There's one more development that deserves your full attention, and it is something that has received far less coverage than it warrants. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, gave an interview to CBS News over the weekend in which he directly contradicted President Trump's claim that Iran had been asking for a ceasefire. Araghchi's exact message was that Iran had never asked for a ceasefire, and that Tehran was prepared to defend itself for as long as necessary. He also separately called on neighboring countries that host U.S. military bases to clarify their positions, accusing some of actively encouraging what he described as a slaughter. That framing is deliberate. Iran is trying to drive a wedge between Washington and the Gulf Arab states that have quietly allowed the United States to use their territory as a staging ground for this campaign. The Revolutionary Guard has followed that up with a direct threat to strike industries across the region associated with the United States. The Houthis in Yemen have declared solidarity with Iran and said their hands are on the trigger. Iraq and Lebanon are both seeing strikes. The regional architecture is under stress in every direction simultaneously. What we are witnessing is not a simple two-sided conflict. It is a complex, multi-front, multi-actor confrontation that is reshaping alliances, disrupting the global economy, producing a staggering humanitarian crisis, and raising questions about the limits of American military power and diplomatic influence that have no easy answers. Israel says it plans for at least 3 more weeks of fighting. The United States has spent more than $12 billion in the first 17 days of this war. The IMF's managing director has warned of serious global inflationary risks if the conflict continues. And Iran, for all the damage it has absorbed, has not collapsed, has not surrendered, and by its own account has not yet deployed its most modern weapons. The next 72 hours will be critical. Watch the Strait of Hormuz. Watch whether any NATO ally or Asian power sends warships. Watch the Lebanese front. Watch whether any back-channel ceasefire communication emerges from Oman or Qatar, both of whom have historically played that mediating role in U.S.-Iran tensions. Those are the indicators that will tell us whether this war is moving toward a negotiated pause or toward a far more dangerous escalation. We will continue tracking every development on this channel, and we will not stop until you have the full, unfiltered picture of what is happening and what it means for all of us. If this analysis helped you understand the situation better, please share this video with someone who needs to see it. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think a ceasefire is still possible, or has this war already gone too far to pull back? We read every single comment. Share this video so more people can access real analysis in a moment when it matters most. And if you have not yet subscribed to War Alert 24, do it now. Because in a world moving this fast, you cannot afford to miss what comes next.